started way back when I started doing YouTube for a job back in 2011, okay, I knew that this was going to be something different, something weird. It's not like having a normal job, a 9-to-5 job. It's not like it's easy to keep track of all your finances and everything, right? It's going to be very difficult. I'm going to have to keep an expense, a running budget. Here's all the expenses I spent on the business that maybe I can, do a write-off on my taxes. Here's my money. Do I want to keep a separate bank account? Very, very complicated to do what I do. All right, it is. And every year, it's a nightmare to try to figure out at that one time of the year when I have to figure out, gee, what do I owe taxes on this? Do I owe that? Do I get a refund this year? Do I roll it over? How many expenses can I write off? And so, when I started way back when making money doing YouTube full-time, I got a tax attorney to be my full-time tax attorney. Now, I didn't just get any old tax attorney. I did research. All right? I did research. This is back when I lived in Connecticut, back in around, I'd say, I'm trying to remember if it was 2011. I don't remember the first year that I actually did this. Okay. So, I did research. I found a guy in Connecticut, 30 years experience, actually taught accounting and finance at universities before, okay, and had these awards and degrees, and it wasn't his full-time job to do it 100% of the time, but it was one of his sources of income that during a year he had clients who he would do their taxes for them. And when I lived in Connecticut, from 2011 to 2014, when I was doing this as a full-time job, my taxes were done through him. And every year what I would do is I put together this spreadsheet of all my expenses and send all the information to him. And he basically put it together so that it would be easy. All right, an easy system, no problems, nothing. Every year I just sent him the information. He has a couple questions. Boom, we file, we're done. All right. And I pay a shit ton of taxes. Now, one of the major reasons why I wanted to get out of Connecticut is because Connecticut has what's called a state personal income tax, meaning whatever you earn in the state of Connecticut, the state takes income away from you every year as a tax. So does the federal government. Now, the state doesn't take nearly as much as the federal government, okay? But they take a decent chunk. And I was like, man, I could literally leave the state of Connecticut and move anywhere that doesn't have a state income tax, or I could move to a state that has a much lower income tax and pay less taxes. And what would be the loss? I work from home. I live stream, right? So, what's the big deal if I were to move out of Connecticut and go somewhere else and do this? I'd be basically just making more money doing it because I don't have to pay all these exorbitant taxes that I'm paying in Connecticut. Oh God, now I can't remember if it was even late August or early September at this point. All right. I get a letter in the mail stating that due to some information that has come across the desk of someone, that they suspect that I, Phil Burnell, own a business called DSP Gaming, and I'm doing business in the state of Washington, but I'm not doing it properly. I never registered the business, which is legally required in the state of Washington, and I'm not paying taxes. Now, to clarify, not personal income tax. There's no state personal income tax in the state of Washington. However, in the state of Washington, they have what's apparently, which I don't know, I'm not a tax attorney, it's called It's some kind of a business. I don't even know the technical thing, but some kind of a business tax that if you're self-employed in Washington and if you fit certain criteria, like you make a certain amount of money, you get income from certain sources, or you receive certain tax documents from the people who you have contractual agreements with, you're required to register as a business and to pay this business tax in the state of Washington. Okay? So I get this letter, and I'm looking at it like, what the hell is this, man? Are you serious? Like, what could this be? Could this be true? This is bullshit. And I read it, I'm like, well, I don't own my own business. I don't, I'm not registered. I don't own my own business. I don't. Legally, there's no business out there that's called DSP Gaming. DSP Gaming is just a YouTube channel, right? There's no business called DSP Gaming. It doesn't exist. So I knew right from the criteria listed in the letter that this wasn't correct, that something was not right here. So I called the guy back and left him a voicemail explaining. I said, listen, you got it wrong. I don't own my own business. I'm not buying or selling. I'm not doing a service. It's internet-based videos that people put ads on. It's way different from what you're describing in your letter. Therefore, I don't think I'm qualified under. You don't have to worry about it or whatever. So he came back to me and he says, well, I got to do my due diligence here. Okay. So at that point, I tried to get my tax attorney from Connecticut involved. All right. I tried to say, what's going on here? This guy is saying that maybe I qualify for having to register as a business and pay business tax and all of this. What's going on? All right. And at the same time, I was still in contact with this guy who apparently was investigating me. So I asked him, I said, I'm just curious. How did this happen? How did you find out about DSP Gaming? Because it's not registered anywhere or anything like that. And he said, well, we got an anonymous tip about a company called DSP Gaming that apparently was operating in Washington State. And the real reason that we got a whiff of you is because you were on a mailing list for small businesses in the state. Like, you were registered on all of them. If you take a look, it's DSP Gaming. It says you're the sole proprietor, and it lists your address, and they signed you up for all of these. I said, well, that makes sense, because that's why I'm getting these contractor magazines. That's why I'm getting all these business-related mailings that I didn't sign up for. That's why I'm getting them all. Someone went out there with my information and registered me as a small business on all these free mailing lists. And then whoever it is that takes care of, the state tax or business tax in Washington got an anonymous tip and went out and looked and said, oh, look at this. If they're registered for these mailings, they must be real. And then they started investigating me. Okay? I just got an update on my taxes. So basically, the business and occupation tax that I was going to owe as a big lump sum at the end of January is now taken care of. And I had more than enough money to pay for it, which is great. And I actually got a $100 small business tax credit. Pretty good. I just got an email about this. Let me save this here. I didn't know there was a small business tax credit, but apparently there is.